Hi, I'm Stefan, the BMW DIY guy, and it's time to get hands-on with the brand new G87 M2 from BMW. All right, y'all, I couldn't be more excited about this. I actually had a chance to get hands-on with the brand new M2. So I'm back here at BMW Seattle today on a gorgeous day here up on the roof so I can show off to you the brand new G87 M2. Now, full disclosure, I have one on order. So if you've been following my channel for a while, you know how passionate I am about the F87. My M2 Competition is the best car I've ever owned, bar none. I've enjoyed it so much, enough so it's a little heartbreaking to imagine selling it. But I'm ready to move on to my next project car, and that's going to be the G87 M2. BMW has really swung for the fences on this one. They've changed so much about it. The design has changed, the structure has changed. It's got a brand new motor. We're going to walk through all of these details, but I want to give you a walk around on this brand new car. So what would it be like for you to come in, check it out, and take it out for a test drive, which I cannot wait to do. I want to get behind the wheel of this and see how it compares to my beloved M2. Now, let's go ahead and start with the motor, because that's one of the biggest changes. All right, y'all, so let's go ahead and start under the hood on this car, considering they have stuffed the S58 motor into this M2 body. Now, this is the same motor you'd see in the X3M, you'd see in the M3, M4. Now, this is tuned to 460 horsepower, though some of the initial dyno runs you've seen out there from folks who've taken delivery of their new M2s, they actually are a little bit more than 460. So this also is 4.1 seconds, 0 to 60, so very, very quick, which doesn't surprise me one bit. As BMW's continued to improve and iterate on this motor, the tuning and the timing on it is really impressive. Now, also, with this motor now already being out through a number of different models, there are already accessories, different things you can change about this, even though this car is brand new. There are a lot of S58 accessories out there, intakes, braces, you name it, that already work on this car, as people will confirm that moving forward. I know in my car that there's going to be a lot of things that I'm going to be looking at, even as the day I take delivery. But all in all, great motor, set up very, very well, very, very quick. All right, let's do a walk around on the rest of the body, and then we're going to jump inside. All right, so we start on the outside now. BMW Seattle has absolutely gone bananas on this particular one and added every single possible M performance thing you can add, with the exception of the exhaust, which we'll show when we get there. But you can see the carbon fiber splitter and winglets on the front, the intakes as well, along with the 50th anniversary badging, which I really like. I'll very likely do the same badging on my car, but there actually are a whole bunch of additions on this car already. Now, one of the things that really is a big change, and I'm gonna have to just deal with it. If you notice, and maybe I shouldn't say this, because once you notice, you can't unsee it. Single headlights. Now, BMW forever has had quad headlights, and these new 2 Series and the new M2 only has single headlights. Now, they're really, really good, or single lenses, but visually, it's quite a change. But as you look at this, and we talk about the differences in this car, there are so many differences from the previous M2. Now, in this case, you're looking at a suspension and engine system that's very, very similar, if not identical, to the M3s and M4s. In some ways, people are calling this like a baby M4, almost. Now, one of the things that you saw that the standard M2 previously didn't have, this actually has adaptive suspension. I love the brakes on this. Look at the size of the brakes on this by default. Those are huge. Now, in addition, BMW Seattle has added the carbon fiber flicks there on the side. So we work our way down. Design changes. Now you see the winglets on either side, and again, radical changes. I have the winglets on my F87 M2, and you can just see the design changes. As you look at a much more kind of muscular, angular car body here in the G87, even the accessories reflect that. Now, I will say that the inserts, now the intake inserts in front and these inserts for the rear bumper, I like a lot. Those are really good, and I could see potentially doing that on my car. In addition, the M Performance rear spoiler, this stage stepped carbon fiber spoiler, I like a lot. Now, the one thing this doesn't have, you can get the M Performance quad exhaust. So instead of it being on either side, here and here, it would be stacked kind of pyramidally in the center, which is really a big difference, huge, huge difference. So every M Performance option on this car other than that. Now, in addition, you can see the similar design language in the taillights. Sometimes this curve will be down low and go under, some of them go above. If you saw my new XM, you see where they've extended the lines out. So again, they have this kind of thematic design language through the whole car. Looking down the side here, you can see how instead of kind of smooth and curved, they've made it more boxy across the back and a little bit more angular as you go through it. Now, the one thing I do like that I do want to point out down the side, back in my original G80 review, there were a couple of body lines here. So we look down the body here. This line here that goes down the body on the G80s just runs out. Where on this one, you can see it runs all the way down the body, all the way down to the tail. You can see that line through the whole car. On the G80s, it doesn't. It kind of comes down halfway, and then on the back kind of starts low and goes forward and stops, and they stop in the door. I do like that that line down the body continues all the way down through the doors. So from the front fender, through the doors, all the way down to the rear fender. I like it a lot. Now, in addition, this car has the carbon fiber roof. This does not have the carbon fiber buckets, which is, man, those are super, super pretty. The one thing I also can't get over is kind of last look here in the front. If you notice, horizontal slats on the kidney grills instead of vertical. It's an interesting setup and kind of ties into this wider stance of the car. This is wider than the previous generation, a little bit longer than the previous generation. And with all this technology, yeah, it is a little bit heavier, but all the performance shows of this car is quick. All in all, I like it. I cannot wait to jump in. So let's take a look at what it looks like on the inside, especially with the new display. I'm going to make an interesting analogy here really quick because I've heard people talk about the door handles and door pulls being different on this new G87 and the new 2 Series. Like, what happened? So instead of like the loop door pulls, it has these flat door pulls. But ironically enough, sitting up here is a 318 IS. I had a very similar car. Now you want to notice? Look. Flat door pulls. So as we look at this and we look forward, there is definitely a nod, to the E30s, the E46s, the models that you go back and you've got flat door pulls. So this isn't something new. This is BMW showing off what they've done previously. Now, one of the things I definitely want to point out as we jump in here, I do love the tricolors in the doors. This is an option you can get in the 2 Series, and the M2 will have them by default. They do also light up. It's a little bit hard to see right now, but you can see the tricolors in the doors, and these actually have lights in them, which is really cool. The interior itself, obviously the black with the M Sport seats. I love these seats. In my brief time and just sitting in these seats, they are very, very comfortable. They hold on to you very well, and I love the color accents. It's kind of taken what the previous seats in the F87 and taken them just one step higher with putting the badging, the M colors, into the seats themselves. The carbon fiber buckets are a possibility in this car, but you definitely have to make sure that you fit and they fit what you plan to do in the car. They are excellent for more aggressive driving, track driving, but long distances, I'm not sure I'd want the carbon fiber buckets. All right, so let's go ahead and jump in, take a look at the center console, the new display in this car. Cannot wait, and I love that steering wheel already. All right, let's go ahead and look at the interior. Man, I love those seats. They are really, really good. It's one of the things that, ironically enough, I'm most excited about. Now, very similar center console design, this being the demo vehicle. It is the automatic transmission. So all of these controls are very similar to about every other generation right now. The G80s, even the XM has the same setup, same iDrive controls with the low button. As we work our way up through, I do love that this cover is bigger, so if you want to close up all that space, you can. And then, as always, it has the wireless charger, which, I'm happy to say my Samsung phone actually fits in. I know that's really trivial, but I really do love it. You have this continued design of BMW where they've inverted their radio and AC controls. They used to be the other way around. So now what little controls you have for your stereo system and the like are all here underneath, because everything is now located here in the display. And this is this 12.3-inch display. Everything is touchscreen, all the same iDrive 8 that's available for updates as BMW moves forward. But this really is the new design. The navigation is your central display. You can change what you have here on either side, of course, as you scroll through. But I am really impressed by this. One of the things I love the most about this new screen is the navigation, just the size of navigation. It is much easier and quick, and I wanted to give that moment for it to expand out to the full screen. I mean, that's fantastic. When you really look at it, it really makes your navigation so much more useful instead of a small screen, and even the 8-inch screens or even 10-inch screens, so much bigger. Now, we could do a long walk through in the iDrive, but so many changes here that you would expect. But as you go through this, now one of the things that is really kind of interesting, your climate controls are now entirely here in your display. Now, I know it's a little bit dark. It's fine to the eye. I can see it's a little bit dark on my camera, so forgive me if it's a little bit dark. But I will say one of the comments I get a lot about these new setups is the fact that you've got no AC controls at all whatsoever here on no buttons, no anything. It's all here in your display. But I do find it's very quick to get to because you always have this dedicated climate menu right here in the center. So you can very quickly get to it. I don't necessarily see it as an impediment. I don't necessarily see it as a problem. But, you know, it definitely will take a little bit of adjusting to get to. Now, let me start the car really quick because I need to turn the steering wheel. We get our startup sound. I really do love this display. Initially, this was an interesting adjustment for me with kind of this angular, speed and RPM and the way it's laid out. But now, with it being much more familiar, I really do love this display. I'm looking forward to taking this out on the road, seeing what this is like in this new M2. And of course, as you go through your modes, your display will change as well, which is so cool. Now, again, if you see any flickering on the screen, that's just my camera. So not a big deal right at the moment. But I love this setup so much and the things you can go through and how it can configure this display. One of the things that I also really want to compliment BMW on is their continued iteration here with this new M steering wheel that you see on the G80s, G82s, even the XM. It has a really good grip on it. It has a very, very solid grip here with the thumb hooks. So as you get your fingers underneath it, I love the feeling of this steering wheel. I think it looks good. And with the previous generations where your M mode buttons would be here on the steering wheel, here and here, I find that as I transition back and forth, as I go from my F87 M2, where my buttons are here, to the levers up here on top, I find that these are much easier to use. So I'm excited to use these moving forward. Now, of course, this has paddle shifters as well because it's the automatic transmission. But with the carbon fiber, you also don't have a sunroof in this particular car, but I am really, really impressed. The iDrive, though, I think is really going to come down to customization, and we have all of the default screens right now, but as you can see, the differences that BMW has made as they iterate forward. They've got all of this kind of icon base now, as they acknowledge that their owners are going to be much more familiar with kind of an icon-based UI rather than tiles or even menus, simply because we all have smartphones, and this looks very much like a smartphone. I do love in this car it has the M Drift Analyzer. This is going to be an interesting screen to see. Obviously not on a demo drive today, but it's going to be fun. I cannot wait to show more of this once I actually have my car. But your options as you go through your options here, really, really impressive, guys. And I think that BMW's approach to this is really, really good. I'm excited by this. I can't wait to show you more. But more importantly, now you might have heard a little bit of startup when I first fired up the car, so you can see the central display. But I want to give you the full startup experience. So let's get that set up, and then we're going to go out for a drive. Things I really like about this on-ramp here as we get onto Interstate 90 or I-90 here in Seattle is that this S-curve coming up is actually a little deceptive. Now, you normally take it at slow speed, and, obviously, as you can see, crossing in front, there's a fair amount of traffic. But both turns are a lot sharper than you think, and especially if you're in the left-hand lane. And in many ways, when I do a demo, this is one of the things that I check on. As I take a car around this corner and as I try to be a little bit higher speed than normal, how does the car respond and how does the chassis feel as you go around the corner? I know it's a real simple thing. It's not like hitting the track or something similar that I would love to do with this car, but it's a great way of feeling, is the car gonna roll or is it really, really flat? I would expect this car to be very flat because the M2s are set up so well, just like the M3s and M4s. But even little things, when you go out on a test drive, little things like this can be an excellent way of testing to see how the car responds. So still in efficient mode, still in comfort mode, everything. So we come around this corner, it's a 25-mile-an-hour corner. Yeah, absolutely flat. Absolutely flat. And turn-in was sharp enough, I had to back off of my turn-in a little bit because it would have happily kept turning into that corner. So yeah, that's always my first test on a test drive. Really, really nice. So let's get a little bit further, see what it feels like over the bumps, over the bridge. Just gorgeous day here in Seattle. Really, really beautiful over here across the lake. If you're not familiar with Seattle, some of the views around here are absolutely beautiful. Looking off to the right, you'll see Mount Rainier, and looking off to the left, you'll see Mount Baker off in the distance. It really is incredibly pretty with all the water and mountains around here. But this bridge, I love this bridge because you've got a hard concrete surface, and then you have all these expansion joints as we go across. And this is my test bed for how the suspension feels. So I'm still currently in comfort. So, as I've taken all the rest of the cars, and I do all my demos on the same route, I'd love to see how this bridge feels between the different models. I mean, does it just float over these expansion joints? Or, is there a little bit of feedback right here? Yeah, and really, not bad. You can feel it, but it's soft, which I would expect with this adaptive suspension and everything in comfort. Now, when we loop and we come back, we'll do everything in Sport and Sport Plus and all the like to see what it's like to tighten down. A couple of things I've also noted while driving here, the larger style mirrors. Now, BMW is using these same mirrors on a lot of the different models, and they are definitely different from my F87 M2, which are much more kind of a swooped oblong shape, where these are a little bit more boxy. I've always thought they look a little bit boxy, but now actually driving, I can see how the additional height gives you a lot more visibility around you out of your side mirrors. So while I've always found them a little bit boxy, my opinion of them, I think, is changing as I drive this car because the visibility here in traffic is really, really good. And then the one other thing that is cool to see that BMW is reusing similar parts. When they make something good, they're going to use it. I noted in the XM, when I got a chance to drive the XM, about the new heads-up display, which never shows well on camera, which I mentioned, but this is the same heads-up display that you would see in the XM. It's wider, it has some color to it, it has a much higher degree of visibility to it where I can move my head around quite a bit and the heads-up display doesn't fade. I definitely noticed in some previous generations that you really only had to be at one correct angle for the heads-up display for it to be really bright and solid. Where in this, I really feel like it gives you a high degree of visibility, including as we just came out of the darkness. It dimmed while we were in the tunnel. It's now bright again in the sunlight, and it's very visible even on a really bright sunny day, which is really, really nice. So I'm looking forward to having this heads-up display again. It's one of the things that I've missed when I switched to my F87 M2. I really missed my heads-up display. I didn't realize how much I enjoyed it and used it until I didn't have it. So that's a good thing. And then the one other thing is the visibility is really good. As I look right and left, there's no, the B-pillar is far enough back that the B-pillar doesn't obscure your visibility really at all. And the same thing is, as I look to my right and I look at the other side, that the B-pillar and the seat right now are sitting in pretty much the same position. So I've got very little anything obscured as I look around. So I'm impressed. One thing I was worried about with the change in body style, that we might get a little bit of a boxed in feeling, a little bit, less glass, that it wouldn't be as visible. But so far, this is really great. Okay, also let's turn in here. So we're currently sitting in efficient and comfort all the way down. So we're gonna hit the M2 button. So M2 and Confirm, which changes us to Sport Plus in acceleration, Sport Plus suspension, Sport and steering, and Sport and brakes. So we are really at maximum settings all the way down the line. I love the fact here in the central display, you know, you've got your map and your controls, but on that right, it's got the setup information right now for, you know, what is your car configuration, which I like. It's nice to be able to have at a glance the way that the display is sitting right now. So we'll get a chance to come down this on-ramp a little bit. We'll do it a little bit more enthusiastically. Let's see what this is like. Yeah. All right. So, you know, I think that was great, and it felt absolutely controlled. That was not full throttle, to be clear, but we got up and got going. That's for certain. Though, here's what I find really interesting, right? Is that I've heard criticism that at times the S58 can be a little slow to respond in lower RPM. And that was quick. I didn't feel like there was any real turbo lag, any, you know, where your rate of acceleration surges as your turbo spins up. You know, I accelerated with some enthusiasm, and it just picked right up, and it felt like the acceleration and power was very linear, which is nice to feel. It sounded really, really good. Hopefully the camera caught that. But yeah, it did really, really, really well. Well, you know, I have to tell you, I'm impressed by this transmission. You know, I am a 6-speed manual guy, and that's what I'm going to be for as long as I can. But the shifts are really, really good. I've noticed that it seems to do a good job, and I'm still in Sport Plus at this point. It seems to do a good job in upshifting and downshifting right at the right moments, kind of as it wants to know that you're going to be driving a little bit more enthusiastically. And the shifts are, if you couldn't hear them, if you didn't hear the car shifting, you wouldn't know it was doing it at all. I mean, the shifts are absolutely smooth. I mean, just imperceptibly smooth, which is really impressive as the technology has continued to improve, and BMW, you know, continues to iterate on this transmission. But I mean, just imperceptibly smooth. And it's only the change in engine tone that you would know that the car is shifting. And even now, as it kind of aggressively downshifts, with the expectation I may need to accelerate in short order. So, I don't know. I could see if I had this automatic transmission, I could probably see running in Sport Plus pretty much all the time. But, you know, that's just me as well. It really, again, it depends on your circumstances. All right, so let's go ahead and regretfully take it back. All right, y'all, so back here to the dealership, and you know, I always say it's not enough time, but man, really true in this case, knowing that I'm waiting on my own G87 M2 to be built. So I really don't want to give this back. This is very similar to what my spec will be, and I cannot wait to go through the whole delivery experience. I haven't bought a new car in ages, and I cannot wait. This really has been a fun experience. This is really fun. This is, I can see where BMW has taken everything that they've learned and iterated even further. You know, this really is almost like a small M4. I mean, it has a lot of similar components. It's just smaller in footprint. Now, it's a little bit bigger than the previous M2, but easy to drive, very responsive, very quick, as I mentioned earlier. This really has been a lot of fun. I cannot suggest this more highly. You really need to get out to drive one of these, see what this is like for you too. And I really do love this interior as well. This interior is just gorgeous. This is my choice on the interior too. So thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And thank you so much to BMW Seattle for giving me this opportunity. I love the fact that they let me get behind the wheel and bring you along with me, give you a little bit of the experience of this car, a little bit of the sight and sounds of Seattle too. Thanks for watching. Please make sure to click like and subscribe. It makes a huge difference to my channel. It really does. And I have so much content coming. Everything you can possibly imagine. New car reviews, DIYs for a G87 are coming up very, very soon. Thanks again. See you on my next video.